torments people forever and ever, holds them over a fire. They'll be tormented forever in hell. Well, this is hell. As you can see, it's not very popular. Not many people live there. Not a popular doctrine. It's actually a town in the United States, in Michigan. But it was interesting, in the year 1741, a guy by the name of Jonathan Edwards preached a famous sermon called Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. I got this picture from Google today, and it's just obviously a CD. You can buy the CD, and so you can listen to the sermon again. And down the bottom, you may not see it's a bit pixelated, but it says, "This is the most powerful sermon ever preached on American soil." That's what it says on the bottom of the CD. Here's some of the things that Jonathan Edwards talks about. He says that God that holds you over the pit of hell, much as one holds a spider, some loathsome insect over a fire, abhors you and is dreadfully provoked. His wrath towards you burns like fire. He looks upon you as worthy of nothing else but to be cast into the fire. O sinner, consider the fearful danger you are in. It is a great furnace of wrath, a wide and bottomless pit, full of the fire of wrath that you have held over in the hand of that God, whose wrath is provoked and incensed as much against you and against as many of the damned in hell. You hang by a slender thread with the flames of divine wrath flashing all about and ready every moment to singe it and burn it asunder, and so on and so on. The picture he paints is of God kind of having you on a string and kind of bouncing you up and down in the fires of hell, so that you are there ready to burn forever and ever. Edwards concludes his sermon, we've got to appeal to awake and to flee from the wrath to come. History tells us that many listeners were converted at the spot. He literally scared the hell out of them. They didn't want to go. They didn't want to be there. The problem is using fear only lasts for a certain amount of time, and many turn away from this kind of thing. Charles Templeton, he used to be an evangelist who used with Billy Graham. He turned into an atheist. This is what he said: I couldn't hold someone's hand over a fire for a moment, not an instant. How could a loving God, just because you don't obey him and do what he wants, torture you forever, not allow you to die, but to continue in that pain for eternity? There is no criminal who would do this. Anyone here ever suffered a burn? What can you tell me about it? It's dreadful. It hurts. It's horrible. My wife's younger sister, when she was little, she was at one of these big camp things, and they didn't have any hot water, so they went and got filled a bucket of hot water in a caravan situation, and just put the bucket of hot water down. And the little kid didn't know about it, tripped down and sat in the bucket. It hurts. Burning hurts. And if you ever put your finger over a fire or whatever, the instant reaction is to take it away. The problem is, the picture that people paint of God is that when your reaction is to take it away, God's kind of there making sure that you are burnt. You rejected him, you need to burn. You need to burn in the eternal fire. Chris Blake says the following. He says, of all the evil people in history, King Ahaz, Herodes, Genghis Khan, Joseph Stalin, Idi Amin, Pol Pot, none is nearly as brutal and inhumane as God the Father, if we believe the scenario painted by many Christians. He says, while Stalin and Pol Pot were satisfied with the death of their enemies, God has tortured millions of people for thousands of years in the liquid fires of hell, with new victims daily, being hurled into the cauldron of no escape. Moreover, God rewards Satan by hiring him as head chef, in charge of the cooking. Incredibly, Christians are spreading the most hideous lie about God that can be conceived. How did this happen? What on earth went wrong? And what does this worst lie that has ever been told do to people who are really searching for a God that they can come to, for a God who loves them? If I can be honest with you, if this is true, I've got nothing to do with a God like that. nothing to do with a guy like that. Chris Blake goes on to say, the false dogma of everlasting suffering in hell has produced millions of honest skeptics and unbelievers. This one tenet has dissuaded more people from a loving God than any other. And he says something I found rather interesting. He says, in his autobiography, Charles Darwin reflects that he was very unwilling to give up his hold on Christianity. But disbelief crept over him. He warrants, I can hardly see how anyone ought to wish Christianity to be true. For if so, the plain language of the text seems to show that men who do not believe, and this would include my father, brother, and almost all of my best friends, would be everlastingly punished. And this is a damnable doctrine. Charles Darwin saying, I don't want to give up on Christianity. But this doctrine of hell, forget it. I want nothing to do with it. And we all know what Charles Darwin went on to write, the origin of the species, the idea that, well, perhaps we just evolved, that there isn't a God who created us. Bertrand Russell said, there's one very serious defect to my mind in Christ's moral character. And this is that he believed in hell. I do not myself feel that any person who is really profoundly humane can believe in everlasting punishment. We have some real questions to answer if we're going to talk about this. And perhaps the first question we need to answer is, did Jesus believe in hell? And the answer comes back, yes, he did. But it's certainly a very different picture from the one that we have painted, the one we've painted here. I was very impressed when Roger started talking and using some Greek and Hebrew words. The word hell is used some 54 or 55 times in the Bible. In the Old Testament, in Hebrew, the word is Sheol. Sometimes it's translated as hell. In the New Testament, the word is Hades. But more often, it simply means the grave. So you'll see there, both Sheol is the Hebrew word for grave, and Hades is the Greek word for grave. Also in the New Testament, Gehenna actually talks about a rubbish tip which was outside of Jerusalem. And there they would come along and there they would burn rubbish, so it can be known as a place of burning. And there's one place in the Bible, in 2 Peter 2 verse 4, where it talks about Tartarus. And that refers to a place of demonic forces. So all three of those words can basically be translated as hell. And so every time you read the word hell, it doesn't always mean fire. Each of these words can be understood apart from any belief in eternal hellfire. But I've got to say, there are passages we need to look at very closely to see what Jesus is really saying here. And perhaps the first one is found in Luke chapter 16. If you want to have a look at this. Luke chapter 16, because here Jesus tells a story which seems way out of character. It's called The Rich Man and Lazarus. And the story basically goes that Jesus is describing a rich man who dies and then he goes to hell. And in hell he's being tormented. And he lifts his eyes and he saw Abraham afar off and Lazarus by his side. And in Luke 16 verse 24, this is on page 739, it says this. So he called to him, Father Abraham, have pity on me and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in this fire. In a Bible I have at home, when I read this, these words are written in red, which worries me. Because when it's written in red, it means that Jesus said them. So what is going on here? What does all this mean? One of the first things we need to notice straight away is this is definitely a parable. And one of the important principles of parables is that each parable is designed to teach one point, a single point, a fundamental truth. And if we take this and start pulling doctrines out of this parable, we run into a number of problems. Let me list some of them here. Are the dead in hell really able to communicate with those in heaven? If we take this literally, that seems to be the conclusion to it. And if that was the case, wouldn't that remove peace from paradise? And if we were to take